Welcome back to another episode of the Block Runner Podcast. I'm your host, William, always here with your co-host, Iman.
Yo, what up, dude?
On the sticks, we got TJ.
Hello.
All right, dude. Another podcast, another week.
Yes, sir.
More agent stuff.
Yeah, we got agents oozing out our pores, basically.
That's just how I like it.
Oh, God, you're sick. You're a sick man, dude. Yeah, so because of that, it's, I don't know, it's refactoring a lot of our perceptions on things.
Our daily activities, that's for sure.
For
It's like
sure.
the whole day we are all interfacing with agents. The whole day.
Yes.
Like we can't even we get more work done interfacing with agents than not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're definitely hitting some sort of inflection point. Not just us personally, but like societal.
Yeah.
Whereas like these narratives and these like fairy tale projections, you know, of like AI is gonna really change everything.
Yeah.
It's like now it's like hitting everybody, I think, all at once. Because I'm seeing like a mass scale like pivot in a sense. Like even from like, you know, because I typically tend to pay attention to the bounds of crypto, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we do here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I still remember those days.
yeah, they're very enjoyable.
They're fond memories.
Yeah. But with some of the bigger influencer types are starting to like full on pivot and panic and such in light of AI.
Yeah.
I guess more specifically Agentic AI and such, you know, and it might have something to do with like that article that painted that doomsday scenario.
Yeah. Citria.
Hold
It's
on.
not Citria.
It's not Citria.
Citri something. Well, anyway, in the article, they explain how in about 2 years, the world is going to change.
Citrini.
Citrini. There you go. That was
You're
okay.
very close, dude. Yeah. So in June 2028, so like the whole article was
It was like a prediction piece. It was not a prediction piece. It was more like
here
I came back from time.
from June 2028,
Yeah.
which is not that far.
Like you didn't really go that far back, dude.
But that's kind of the shock factor, I think, is like, hold on, he only time traveled 2 years.
Yeah, it's like we invented time travel in 2 years. Like,
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But nobody paid attention to that.
No.
That wasn't what spooked everybody. It was the unemployment rates. It was the fact that the S&P was down like 40% from its highs or whatever.
Yeah.
And the main culprit to it all was, of course, AI, right? The big bad,
Yeah.
or potentially what's becoming the big bad wolf, like from a public perception standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, so why did this strike such a nerve? Because I'm looking at it right now. It has
It's like 30 million impressions or some shit.
28 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, just why? I mean, because we read it and it's like,
Yeah.
this isn't anything that drastically new.
No. I mean, I felt like it's pretty obvious. I think what's shocking is probably the 2028 date.
Yeah.
Because everyone, you know, the singularity, you know, all that stuff, 2029.
Yeah.
Like it's so in the future. At least it was
Yeah.
so far into the future.
Yeah.
But 2028 is like 2 years, guys. That's the next halving.
That's right. And as we know, 2 years goes by in a flash.
It does. But the thing with Bitcoin, in addition to AI, they both operate on exponentials, right? Bitcoin operates on a decay, exponential decay,
Yes.
right? And so AI operates on exponential growth, right?
Right.
Exponential development.
Yeah.
And so 2 years is actually more like 10 years. And so, yeah, I can see why, you know, in 2 years, people will be shocked at the unemployment rate.
Yeah. So I think that's what it is it's the framing of this message that we've all heard a million times already.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, because I think you could visualize it a little bit more than you could before because there's like a date set to it now. So it gets you thinking. It's like, holy shit, am I prepared? It's like I only have 2 years basically to like,
Yeah, permanent underclass.
yeah, position myself. What do I need to do? Doomer, you're scaring me, but
Yeah.
like tell me where's the scapegoat or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You know, where's the bug out location? You know?
Just install OpenClaw, dude.
That's it.
That's it.
Just talk to your bot and you'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, this bot will do your work, right?
Yes, but see now we're getting to the inflection point in for ourselves personally, right? Because we're actually already kind of like in the process of that.
Mm-hmm.
We see the value of these new agentic models, and we know how to apply them to make ourselves much more efficient. And
Yeah. So what do you think? If everyone has agents, does nobody have agents?
no.
No? Right.
No,
It's sort of
because-
like if everybody has the ability to spin up a company, does that mean companies are like saturated?
Definitely not.
No, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because just because you spin up a company doesn't mean you're going to be successful,
Yeah.
right? So just because you have an agent or just because you feel like everyone else has agents doesn't mean like the opportunity is over.
Right. So then what is
So what's the difference between like success and no success even though you have an agent? I think it's like probably applying, I don't know, for lack of a better word, first principles to a problem.
Oh, that word. God damn it, dude.
It's the best.
Now you got to explain first principles again. Go for
Dude,
it.
first principles is it's how everyone should think, first of all.
Okay.
And it is a methodology of breaking down a problem into its basic components.
Mm-hmm.
So, say for example, you're trying to launch a rocket into space. You need materials, right? And you need to form these materials in a way that is consistent with physics. And so it's like tubular. You have fuel, and the materials sustain, friction through air resistance and all that heat, and all that stuff can be broken down into base materials, raw materials like steel. Right. But if you go to Russia and you try to buy one of these rockets, they'll charge you like $20 million for something that usually would cost like less than $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, long story short, that's how Elon started SpaceX.
Okay. So unfortunately we can't just like download Elon's first principles MD file and just like slap it on all of our.
He needs an agent, and we need to access his MD file, his sole MD.
I suppose, but I guess you could actually inject that into like the actual sole MD file of your bot, like
yes.
approach everything and first
100%.
person,
That's the first thing I did, dude.
Yeah. Well, then step one. See, this is my point. Okay, so what I'm observing is, we're actually utilizing these new technologies and these new tools pretty effectively. So I feel like we need to broadcast that in some new format or way, right? Other than us just talking about it, we need to like show more of this stuff. Like it's the equivalent of we've had a YouTube channel for the last 7 years, and we deeply understand some new crypto primitive or some new whatever, right? Some new technology that enters the crypto space, and we're doing everything we can to digest it. In most cases, actually apply it into the things we build.
Sure.
And therefore, we're relaying to all you guys watching and listening, the usefulness, the applicability of it, and therefore we're transmitting like the value opportunity of this thing. Like, and we've done that pretty effectively. I'd say. I mean, I wish we had like an actual way to display all of our banger hits.
So you're saying we maxed out our crypto skill? Like, there's nothing else gained?
No, well, that depends on crypto as an industry itself, right?
Yeah.
It feels like we've topped, but that's not our fault. It's just there's not much to like really soak in anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like the progress is really slowed down.
Yeah, it's all about stable coins.
Yeah, and like how much can you say there, dude? It's like
they're stable.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
They're pretty stable out there, the dollars, even though it's in flux every now and then.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this AI stuff though, it's like, well, what is the formatting version of that? Or it's like, okay, we're also consuming and digesting this whole new vector of reality. It's not just crypto, it's AI. And then we're doing the same things where it's like we're forming the deep understanding, identifying the value, and applying it to the things we are building. And so it's like, how do we best relay this to our audience? Right?
I have to remember that not everyone spends a lot of time researching like I do.
No. Well, because it's boring, dude.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Well, newsflash, dude. I'd rather be on TikTok or watching, some sporting event.
Unbelievable.
But I still want the nugget of value that you've
You still
concocted.
want an agent like producing TikToks for you?
Please. Right? Tell me how to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I actually, enjoy doing research and understanding. Like, I don't know why. I guess it's like it just came from like an early thing of like once you learn something, it's like an RPG. You sort of gain that skill, and it's like, okay, I want to improve that skill, right? So I go deeper.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've tied that dopamine kind of, reflexivity to learning new stuff. But anyway, so I spent a lot of time looking into this AI stuff, but I would imagine that a lot of people do not do that. And so the best way to do that is to talk about what it is that we're implementing, and how it actually has benefited us as a business, and what benefits do you gain when implementing an agentic workforce in your organization? Like what does it look like?
It's not obvious.
Yeah, it's not clear.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just they're soaking in headlines of like people claiming that AI is helping them in so many different ways.
Yeah, you got to read that with a grain of salt, right? Not all of them are generating $10,000 per week. And even if one has, that's a one-off situation.
Right.
So this reminds me like this parallel when I remember when social media came out, there was this like understanding within the people using social media that if you didn't have a social media account, you essentially didn't exist.
I remember that.
And so businesses had to level up and get social media accounts.
Yeah.
And so this is probably the same thing all over again. Like if you're a business, you need to be running these things.
Yes.
Otherwise, your competitors are going to 10x your progress overnight, literally.
Pretty much. Yeah. And so I think that's something, again, we have something to offer in this respect because, we lost a soul not too recently. Actually, very recently.
From a business perspective, not like from a death perspective.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
We lost a real human soul. And it was a pretty important one, right? Without this soul, like this podcast or this channel
the cog just fell out of the machine.
Yeah, so it's like, shit, what do we do?
We gotta generate a new cog.
Yeah, but we can't birth humans. We gotta spend 20 years feeding this lad. It's like,
no way.
Or you gotta have money around to pay somebody. Don't have that either.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are we gonna do? It's like, oh shit, these AI agents, they do a lot of things.
Yeah.
So let's find out if we can architect like a workflow, a process, whatever, because of these agents and the ability for them to spawn sub-agents and orchestrate very complex tasks. Can we do that and then synchronize that to what we do here? Right?
Yeah.
Our input. This is the input. Right?
Yeah. What's interesting is that that sort of thinking is not too different before we had AI, because I remember when we first started this, it'd be like, let's make a YouTube video. And then from that YouTube video, we're going to make an article. And then from that article, it's a tweet thread. And from that tweet thread, we're going to create, like little videos that kind of explain the whole thing. And it's like we had one output is generating 5 different things. I was like, well, we need a human on each like limb here.
Yeah.
And then we can do it. And so now it's like you're doing the same thing, but an agent is sort of working through the entire process.
Yeah, but imagine if we actually did, because one of the things we figured out through the loss of this soul, rip, is actually how inefficient we were with like our, putting things together and then like actually producing useful outputs in all these potential channels, right? Like basically we were limited by the bandwidths of human
mental capacity.
Yeah, and that's very variable, right? From human to human.
Yeah.
It's contingent on desires.
It's like if you're sad, you're just not producing much.
Yeah, you just don't feel like working today.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, fuck, I'm not vibing with them.
Yeah.
So
totally unacceptable.
Guess what? Some article doesn't get written and posted, or a short doesn't get generated and therefore the machine stops, right?
Yeah.
Or it's less active. So we're like, damn, well, if it can do the things that were already happening, what other things can it do?
Mm-hmm.
Then you start to identify all these potential channels of value we could be tapping into.
Yeah, it's a little weird how much lack of content in respect with like the ability to leverage these agents to produce all this content versus what you're actually producing. Once you enable this agent, you're producing 10 times as much as you were before.
Yeah, that's the real shocker. And then you start to think about like, hold on. So it's like we were paying this soul this amount of money to do this amount of stuff. And then we just added all this new stuff on top of that. So it's like, how much more money is that? Like if we were to bring in other souls to do this work. And then you start to like, we just saved like $20,000 a month basically.
Yeah, easy.
In labor by applying these AI workflows and systems.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's, I think, a big deal. And it's like the shadow aspect of like AI. It's like it's not like crypto where it's so much more surfaceable, like the value of crypto, right? Like you can just buy a token,
Yeah.
watch it go up, and I get it. I know why I want to get involved in that right away. That was my onboarding experience. I literally bought a coin in 2014. Well, Bitcoin. The only coin.
Bitcoin.
I bought Bitcoin in 2014, forgot about it for 3 years.
Yeah.
Picked up my app, and I saw like a 10x ROI. And that was it. That's all I needed to see. It's like, okay, I'm dedicating my soul to this industry moving forward, right?
Yeah.
But AI, it's not that obvious, right? We're like, what's the 10x vertical? Like, if you're telling me to get a Claude bot and all this stuff, you're telling me to learn all these different models and stuff.
But where's my ROI? Like,
where's my 10x?
Yeah, how does my bank account change if I install a Claude bot?
Yeah, it's not that obvious, but I just kind of told you. It's like we just essentially generated $20,000 out of thin air.
Yeah, that's right.
Every single month, so long as the agents, we keep paying the credits.
Yeah, which is significantly cheaper than $20,000 a month.
Significantly.
Yeah.
So that's the lens that I think we can help.
Yeah, so
make that more clear.
That is a big deal, but what I think is an even bigger deal is that once you implement this, your agent output is completely dependent on the LLM that you're leveraging.
Yeah.
And guess what? LLMs get better on a weekly to monthly basis.
They do. It's crazy.
And they don't just get marginally better. They get way better.
So do you think we're reaching some sort of
no way. Absolutely not. No.
So, okay. What is the dependency of improving these models rooted to? Is it energy only?
I think there's innovation behind like the weights, the individual modals that they're using to train. Some of the LLMs are multimodal. So maybe one day we wake up to Opus 5.0 and it can generate images for you. Mm-hmm. Like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. And so all that is dependent on like the type of weights that they're using and the training and all the GPUs that they're running. All that is like churning this LLM that's eventually going to be hosted by them and then offered through APIs.
Okay. So then don't expect the slowdown.
No way, dude. No, this is exponential. This is like escape velocity type.
Depends. Like I think Vitalik was out there like
a
day or two ago.
Don't listen to Vitalik. Floor it. Send it.
He literally said to like, we need to shut down these like data centers or something like that.
Incorrect.
Yeah, that's pretty.
So Elon has been saying that for a couple of years.
Yeah, I was going to say like.
I mean, they all signed a petition that's like, we all agree to slow down.
Yeah.
And people signed it, but most did not. And they're like, okay, well, let's pedal to the metal.
Yeah, suckers.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you going to do at this point? You know, Vitalik, he wants to be on the right side of history, I guess, or like have history point as like one of the guys who was warning us.
I think even if he's right, it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, for sure it doesn't matter because, like you're saying, it's a race, like a legit one.
Yeah, Terminator is going to be walking around for sure.
Yeah, so again, back to the Doomer articles. That's the next one, right? It's like it's 2030 now.
Yeah.
There's a fucking Terminator loose. It's killed 40% of humanity.
That's crazy.
I guarantee you, Citrony or Citronia or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the next banger article is going to get everyone like freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, 2 years later after 2028 apocalypse.
It's like a series of these.
Yeah.
You know? It's like status update.
I'm back from 2030.
Yeah, we didn't make it to Mars. It's all your fault back there, 2026ers.
We should have listened to Vitalik.
Yeah, I'm telling you. So who knows? But yeah, it's unstoppable and it's progressing so quickly. So
the real question is okay,
build accordingly, I guess. Is my point.
You're using agents. You have a ton of output. So you're saying your output is just AI slop, right? That's what you're telling me. Why should I read your stuff?
Wait, what? Say that again.
Put yourself in the shoes.
Who are you role playing as right now? I lost that.
The audience is like, okay. All right, these guys are telling me that everything that they do is AI output, right? So
yeah, I see.
Why should I read your stuff? Like, what is there any value? I guess the question is there any value in having AI produce anything?
Yeah, I think it depends on, again, the context that AI is pulling from in order to generate the substance.
Yeah.
In other words, the context is us. It's like if you've been relying or depending on our ability to learn things and understand things, and then therefore you think it's valuable content, then the AI is going to be
Is wrapping that up into
Yeah.
like a bite of information.
and it's more content than not. Again, it's like
Yeah.
because it's helping us, it's giving us like extendability, like more arms basically.
Yeah.
Therefore, we get to like actually, maximally leverage all that work that goes into, like
Yeah.
you're saying, well, what you feel is the fun times, what most people would dread. It's like, let me spend my weekend learning about the latest model. It's like,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in leveraging an agent to go and do a bunch of research on a particular topic, process that information, and give you like a comprehension on like what it processed. So, so what if that agent took that processing and that comprehension and just developed a tweet thread for you, right? Isn't that tweet thread sort of valuable?
It is, but again, this is part of what we have to kind of demonstrate. It's like, because that's part of our process flow, right? This is how we feel we can optimize things like marketing
Yeah.
and such, right? But we have an understanding like that's not good enough, right? Because we have standards, we have integrity, we have these little, we have like
These annoyances.
I find this to be core. This like, AI is great and everything, but we've got to inject like some criteria within it all to where like our authenticity of thought is like maintained. It's
but
not
all you're saying is we should take the output of the AI, make sure you read it and you edit it, and then you post it.
some process flow of that. That way, somebody who's like running a business, they have an understanding of, okay, now I understand what you mean by like I can deploy these agents to better produce better marketing content for my company, right?
Yeah.
Because right now we're not doing that. So give me the exact flow and the process of how to do that, right?
Yeah.
And show me like the results you've gotten, and hopefully you have some sort of positive traction to back that up.
There needs to be a detectable effort in anything that is outputted by an AI. So, for example, there was this tweet, maybe it was like a couple of weeks ago, where this guy was dogging Nat. And in that tweet, it was like kind of long, but if you actually read the tweet, you could tell it was AI written. And I knew because one of the words in there for Nat was non-arbitrage token.
Yeah, I remember this.
And then no one has ever generated or built a non-arbitrage token. Now, like, that doesn't even make sense. Those aren't even like words that can be combined.
That's what I mean. Like you can't just that is not our process, right? So like that's not what we would say to do.
So that is an example of AI slop. Yeah. Now, had he read it, his own AI output, had he read it and edited it to say what he thought his understanding of the NAT token, then it would have been an actual viable, attempt of an argument.
Yeah, but he may not have spent like any time.
He didn't. It was clear. It was obvious.
Yeah, maybe because like he probably did read it and he just didn't see that to be an error, right? Because he had such a surface level.
No, that's unacceptable. If you're gonna if you're going to, let's say, criticize the NAT token,
I agree,
and you're reading your own AI slop and you just kind of like gloss over non-arbitrage token, then I am telling you didn't read it.
Yeah, well, then he just has no idea what he's talking about.
Well, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah. So there is a middle part to this process where he's leveraging AI and he's packaging what are supposed to be his thoughts and opinions into like, human readable format and through the social layer so that he could build clout.
Yeah.
Influence, whatever.
What's interesting is that the comments from that tweet, they were like, yeah, you're right. And, like they were all like kind of dogpiling on top of like the sentiment of it. And I don't know.
Those are just his like, what do you call them? His yes man, his because he had already like a pre-built influence from being a Bitcoin miner, Bitcoin talker, whatever.
Yeah.
So those people are naturally just going to agree to whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not doing any analysis either, and that's kind of the and there's a responsibility there for public figures who are supposed to be doing the due
In-
diligence,
Doing the influencing.
yeah, if you claim yourself to have some sort of like position of influence, then it has to be backed by
Yeah.
something. Now, if it's backed by bullshit, plenty of people get away with that,
Yeah, they do.
right? But we feel like our whatever influence we have or will have in the future is backed by like authenticity.
Yeah.
And like, this is our true opinion and thoughts on things. And like not, that's why you rely on us.
Yeah.
Because that's hard to we feel like that's hard to find nowadays. There's like not a lot of genuine people out there, especially in the influencer.
Well, genuine
like-
people who actually think.
Right. Yeah, they're not getting paid to say something
Yeah.
because, whatever. That's how the influencer economy wheel churns, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. And it's like we want to make sure that's like, that's the context we give our AI systems.
Yeah, to get us
that same
close
alignment.
enough. Yeah, to get us close enough to like the desired output. But yeah, every time you do have to edit everything.
Yeah. So my point in this whole conversation flow is an understanding of like principles, I guess, when building out like your agentic workflows and systems and models and such, so that like when a new company applies this stuff or a new organization, whatever, they understand these principles need to be maintained. Because if they don't, you end up with the AI slop like that guy put out.
Yeah.
And then once people find out about it, they realize how inauthentic you are. That's going to hurt your brand.
Yeah.
That's going to be a bad PR look.
That's why I dunked on him. I quote
Yeah.
tweeted it and I explained that he didn't even read his own AI slop. And then I broke down what I interpreted as criticism against Nat, and they just don't understand math. It's literally that simple.
Yeah. It is.
I mean,
what it is.
exponentials are hard. Don't get me wrong. It's really hard to understand like what an exponential means, but just do the math. Just go back to like algebra.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, so yeah, that's just one example that I can remember. That's like the most obvious. But we see slop all the time. But AI output is not automatically slop. Is my point.
Yeah.
And so yeah, ultimately you're gonna have to spend some time on it. But so think of it this way: if AI allows you to produce a 10x, right? And so before AI, you were producing a 1x because you're just human. And so in that 1x environment, you are producing tweets, doing YouTube videos, doing all this stuff, creating thumbnails. But you're doing all of that yourself, like manual human labor, because there's no automation anywhere. So now you transition to this 10x environment, and you're still a human. You still have to review everything, but you're reviewing 10x the output.
Yeah.
So instead of doing the manual labor of doing 1x, you're just reviewing everything that the AI has generated.
Mm-hmm.
And if you review it and edit and post it, now you're posting 10 times the thing that you were just last week.
Right.
And so I think that is the new way to work.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. It transitions people's like energy from like, I don't know, like lower rungs of
Yeah.
functionality into like the higher rungs, meaning like people should be thinking more like across the board, like leveraging their mental cognitive bandwidth for things like strategy,
Yeah.
and, depth of identity and messaging and like, the things that are core to your brand and your personality things. And this is the stuff that's not, replicable through AI.
Yeah.
These are the touch points that are actually going to get people that are loyal to your brand or the existence of whatever it is you're up to.
Yeah.
Right. And that the mental focus should be channeled on that. So AI is there to assist you in this process, right? Doing like the grunt work essentially.
That's right. Yeah.
And part of the grunt work is like, it's hard. You could spend a lot of time ideating, right, on things. Like if your role is to, output tweets, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you could spend all day just, and we've done, and this is part of our personal struggle. It's like, we know we need to be tweeting a lot
Yeah.
because that's part of humanity's game at this point. It's like being socially present and outputting, genuinely useful thoughts into the ether,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Why? Because our economy is like rooted to that.
Or
You know?
if not now, it will be.
Yeah, more so over time, right?
Yeah.
But our struggle is like, I don't know, we're just not built that way.
No, I'd rather not talk, dude. I'd rather not say anything.
Same.
I prefer just
Well-
to sit quietly and like learn and
I would talk a little bit.
Yeah. What episode of podcast is this?
Yeah, we're in the wrong
that's true.
business,
That's
dude.
true, dude.
But maybe talking's not the issue. Is I rather not have attention for real. You know.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how do you do a podcast where no one talks? Like,
It's not. It's more like a TikTok dance, right? You're just a dancer.
oh no, I
there?
can't. I couldn't do that either.
Well, what value do you have as a person if you're not willing to dance or talk, dude? Like for real.
That's true.
Like,
That's a good point.
what are you doing then?
Yeah, that's true. If if I'm a person who likes to do the research and likes to understand and apply,
Mm-hmm.
but if I just apply it, then I'm creating this stuff. But how do you get that creation out there? You got to say something, right?
You have to. Yeah. In other words, how do you convert your absorption of knowledge into like something of economic value?
Yeah,
Right. It's
right.
like, if you just harbor all that learnings to
Yeah.
yourself, you've produced zero
Yeah,
economic value.
nobody's
from it.
using your app. Nothing,
Yeah.
no feedback, nothing.
Yeah, you just feel a little nice inside.
Yeah,
It's like I feel well knowledged.
yeah.
You know, you just walk around Earth. Like I bet you I know more than that guy.
It's like frame mogging just in your mind.
Pretty much. And I think there's a lot of people that walk around like those are basically like neckbeards. You know, they walk around. Oh shit, I'm one of them. They walk around thinking he's like, dude, I just know so much. You know, it's like I'm awesome, right? But nobody agrees with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to put it out there, right? And there's ways to do that, but it's not natural to our personality types.
Yeah, that's
For
really
others,
weird.
it's supernatural. And like most of the stuff they're putting out there is like baseless or like
Yeah.
not well informed. It's
Yeah.
just like just vomit,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah, and they have like 100,000 subscribers.
it works.
Yeah, that's
So-
weird.
So that's one of our struggles, right? So it's like, okay, let's create some new agentic workflows or processes where we can get agents that spend the bulk of the majority in the ideation phase so that it kind of like gets us past this wall of inertia, right?
Yeah, we call it the activation energy.
Mm-hmm. And it's been very useful, right?
Yeah.
So far. Mostly for you. I haven't applied it like at all yet. Because
Yeah, you need to.
I'm still holding on to the little bit of like
Like the grass.
something, a little bit of a possibility that I could do it all on my own. You know?
That's hilarious, dude.
I'm still trying. I'm still
Hilarious.
fighting. Even though I see the value in this like agentic stuff, I'm still fighting for humans. You know, at the same time,
Well, you're losing.
I am losing.
Like big time.
I know that. I see your Twitter account. It's like, dude, you tweeted like 8 times today. I haven't even tweeted once yet, but I know I got thoughts in there, right? I could tweet something, but I just don't. Like, what the fuck's wrong with me?
Yeah, activation energy.
That's what it is. So
Yeah, I think that's been AI's killer feature that nobody talks about is the activation energy. But it's not enough to like set up a Claude bot and all of a sudden you're tweeting every day.
no.
There's got to be some effort put into it. It's like you got to put in your own persona, your own like ideologies.
There's a lot of massaging.
And then on top of that, you have to research. You have to scrape Twitter
Mhm.
for like specific topics, and then distill that information into like your own voice. So there's some effort.
Well, this is what I mean, dude. You just broke down like a whole series of videos.
A whole video, yeah.
Maybe multiple videos. Like, yeah, how do you use AI to build your voice? How do you use AI to scrape the internet to find out like what's socially relevant?
Yeah.
How do you use AI to then package all these things into like, you know, a regular cadence of output?
Yeah.
But before that, it's like, how do I use AI to like ping me, like so that I'm like not out of the loop completely? Like, there's a lot to consider here.
Yeah, on top of that, it's like, okay, now your AI is producing your tweets, but where's it putting it? Is it just like texting you on Telegram? Like, that's not very efficient. How do you get 8 tweets in the morning
Mm-hmm.
all on Telegram?
Yeah.
Like, no, you got to put it in a place where you can access them and review them and provide feedback to the AI. Like, there's a process to this thing.
Yeah.
And I guess, to me, it feels very obvious because that's like first principles thinking. Like, that is how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But most people probably don't think that way, and they don't know to like set up an infrastructure that allows your bot to produce these tweets and review them and feedback and all that loop.
Correct.
Yeah,
So-
so we got plenty of videos to make.
Yeah. So that's what's in my head, right? It's like this feels like the new opportunity. You know, that all we got to do is like reach out and grab it.
Yeah, pull it out.
just like crypto, right? And it's like, but that reaching out and grabbing it is like so like misunderstood. So we have a vector of opportunity here to be like, some content producers that help people on board.
Yeah. So are we forgetting crypto?
No. That's not at all what I'm saying. Right? I mean, we literally just made a video right now talking about crypto because, one of the more interesting things that I've personally done is using an agent to like facilitate an on-chain transaction on my behalf. Like that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like just the thought of that, you start to envision all the future things that will follow, right?
Yeah, your experience right now was a very 1x experience. You directed your agent to go and mint something. But imagine if you created a loop where your agent is going to mint whatever had a lot of traction out there on Twitter. And now it's like while you're sleeping, it's minting stuff.
Exactly. It got me thinking. It's like, okay, because I gave my agent the right skill, I informed it of the right, I guess, process to prepare for the launch of this thing.
Well, why mint this thing versus the next thing? That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and then that's going to require, like, again, a much more deeper relationship.
Yeah.
And an understanding of, I have to give it my context of like what it is that generates my gut feeling of an opportunity in these markets, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not, I haven't even like really figured that out myself, right? Because you asked me that one day, it's like, well, how do you scrape Twitter like by doom scrolling?
Yeah. Like how do you pick? How do you make an assessment of when you're doom scrolling? Like this is the thing.
Yeah, that we should probably pay attention to, and then therefore make a video about. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that is, you need to put it into a prompt for your agent.
Yeah, I was like, shit, really, I don't know, dude.
Okay,
that was my
so
answer.
Here's how it is. This is something that's not obvious either. Is that process that you go to doom scroll on Twitter, find the thing that's the alpha, and that process isn't a single prompt. It is a vibe. Right, so daily, you're like, okay, your agent produces a daily briefing, and here's the alpha that I think you should pay attention to, and 99% of that stuff is just pure trash. Mm-hmm. So then, what you go to the agent says, 99% of this stuff is pure trash.
Right.
What you need to do is actually look for this other thing and these stuff. For the next stage, it's like 90% trash.
So the feedback loop, in other words.
Yeah, and it's gonna take a few weeks before it's like it's pure alpha.
To figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that, where it's like, yeah, give me things that, based on, I don't know, some surface level metrics of engagement that's like piquing people's attention.
Yeah.
Then there it is. There's my list. It's like, okay, I'm going to individually go through them, analyze them myself, and then leave a feedback note for the AI. It's like, this one I would probably ignore because, I see some social engagement metrics here that are obviously botted.
Like social, yeah.
There's some red flags there that if I were to doom scroll and see that, I would immediately swipe. Keep swiping. It's like, okay, then I'll stop looking for those.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's other things where it's like, well, this project is really not like introducing anything new. It's kind of like a derivative of something that's already kind of popped off in the past, and therefore it's like less likely to actually garner any real interest, right? Because the market, our understanding is, they love new things.
Yeah.
New primitives or just new cultural vectors of what can be done on chain, or just new narratives, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So if it doesn't check that, then just stop.
Yeah.
Stop it. Full stop. Stop giving me that that idea.
Yeah.
So you're right. And again, this is part of the process flow that should work.
Yeah,
us and everybody else.
That's the thing that is also not obvious, is that you need to spend a lot of time with your bot. You're all day. It's sort of like you're texting somebody all day. And it's a little weird at first, but then it's like every day you talk to the bot, there's like a little bit more progress made, and it pings that little dopamine part of your brain where it's sort of like an RPG. Mm-hmm. Like when you're playing World of Warcraft and you achieve like the next level, all of a sudden your attack power is plus 1%. Mm-hmm. Like you have that dopamine hit and you want to keep going. And it's the same thing when chatting with this bot.
Interesting. Yeah, it's just not like obviously visualized.
It's not,
right?
But you know what you could do is you could have the bot generate an RPG gamification of your skill and progress.
What would that look like? It's like,
it would be like a little character with like armor and like a sword.
Yeah. But what are the like milestones to, I don't know, your armor going from like
Well, it's like last week
you're wearing leather, now you're wearing chainmail, you know?
Well, last week you generated 50 tweets, and of those 50 tweets, you had 1,000 likes.
Yeah, true.
This week you had 3,000 likes.
Fucking heavy metal, dude.
Yeah, you just gained a level.
You achieved knighthood. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, then that's like a reinforcement loop for yourself, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have to wait around for OpenAI to give you that
Correct.
that experience.
This is what I mean about how cool this thing is like anything that you need that you feel like you're missing, you could just build it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I built was a like a health tracker app. I take pictures of my food. It's tracking my intake in terms of calories and my calorie expenditure at the gym, and it's putting it all together, and it's tracking my macros every week, and there's like a bar chart and everything.
Yeah.
And like there's apps out there that
I
can
was
do
gonna
that,
say,
but
there's no way there's not an app like that.
no, there kind of is, but there kind of isn't. And but this is like a holistic thing. It's like my assistant is not only like producing tweets, but it's also like tracking my health and all that stuff. Like it's all there.
Interesting.
And it's custom built, which is really cool. And I think the next wave of user interfaces and apps are completely custom built applications.
Yeah.
Because that's what these computers are supposed to do. Like you and I are running Twitter right now. They look like the same thing, but sometimes I don't want to see all this like trash on the right, on the left. I should be able to customize my view on Twitter.
Interesting.
And you should be able to do that. I mean, this interface is just a bunch of API calls. Like there's nothing unique or special about this.
Right.
This is Elon's interpretation of what Twitter should look like. And maybe this is not the best implementation of Twitter.
Probably not. But if you were to like implement your own version of it, that it would obviously like lose track of a lot of the, I don't know, features of Twitter that are here on like your peripherals essentially. So like, I don't know, you may forget that you.
Yeah, but that's your agent's responsibility.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm missing some information from my Twitter feed. It's like, oh, you're talking about the engagements, the social engagement stuff. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll add it in there.
Yeah, I guess. Or if you just, for whatever reason, like Twitter Spaces, just you hate even the sight of them.
Yeah.
You could just eliminate the whole right side of your screen, basically.
And there's people who have built interfaces for Twitter, right? You just download the app and it gives you like a different interface. And so it's like that, except you are the developer. You could build that yourself if you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, so all this is super cool. But yeah, so if we're gonna go down some, I don't know, pathway where we're putting our best foot out there and demonstrating how this technology can be applied, it still feels like we're missing a hook, right? Where it's like, and if the hook that came to me was, we're already on a mission to like build a competing product to Pump.Fun, right? You guys all know that. It's called Nat.Fun. It's in the pre-production phases. It will launch hopefully within
a few weeks.
Yeah, the next few weeks. But that really is the goal. So we have a target in mind. It's like Pump.Fun is a viable business in the crypto industry, and it's a $1 billion business.
Yep.
Right? So already kind of like the golden goose of a narrative in the AI agentic space is like there's going to, at some point in time, there's going to be some solopreneur out there that achieves $1 billion business, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we're not alone.
Yeah.
But we're like, some basketpreneurs. There's a basket of a few of us.
Yeah.
We're not some full, to achieve $1 billion company, usually you need like hundreds of people.
Yeah.
But like maybe like we can actually throw our name in the hat of like people who are attempting to build a $1 billion agentic startup.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's no different than, I think Tether has like maybe 30 to 40 people and they're generating multiple billions per quarter.
Yeah, but it's also Tether. It's like does nothing.
Yeah, it does nothing. But the point is that you actually didn't need a lot of people to do nothing, right, to be Tether.
Yeah, for sure. But, because that's why like people are already kind of like pointing at, what's his name? Steinberg? Peter Steinberg, as he's already the guy. He already.
Yeah, I would qualify. I mean, it's not the most perfect ideal like solopreneur billionaire, but I mean, he did something pretty big. So
for sure, yeah, I'm not knocking what he did. I'm just saying, I don't know if he qualifies to be like the winner of that
Yeah.
accolade, just because like what he did isn't like some systemic replicable model.
No,
Right.
from a business perspective, no, he didn't do that. But he did vibe code OpenClaw. And so
And basically is valued at $1 billion.
yeah, he basically got acqui-hired, and they probably spent probably near $1 billion
Yeah.
to get him to work at OpenAI.
Yeah, it's just okay. You literally he's inflection point 2 in the timeline of AI so far. It's like ChatGPT,
Yeah.
OpenClaw. So it's like we gotta wait another 5 years or something for the next one. It's like that can't be it. There's gotta
No,
be some
definitely
sort
not.
of, there has to be something where I don't know that gives everybody else hope who's like trying to build something of value, that like I can apply something, some rigid structure of something that exists out there.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're the ones building that.
Yeah, for sure it's going to happen just because everyone has access to these tools, and these tools allow you to build pretty much anything.
Mhm.
So your creativity is really the limitation, but also your ability to understand how things work is also a limitation too, because if you're building an application, there's no security, and you go and deploy it, you're not going to be $1 billion business,
Mhm.
right? It's not going to happen,
Yeah.
right? Even if it's a really good idea, but there's poor security implementation, you're done.
Yeah.
So you do have to spend some time understanding architecture of software.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where if you're a solopreneur, you may be gimped in
Yeah.
that respect, right? Because you just don't have that kind of experience.
Yeah, and
rolling
and,
out
and then
apps.
and then again, the AI is getting better. So you could just like ask the AI. Claude just released a security like plugin.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't we deploy before we deploy this app? Let's just run this this plugin to make sure it's secure.
Right.
And, like you could at least do that, but you need to know that that exists,
Mm.
because if you don't, it's
Yeah.
as good as not existing at all.
Yeah. So maybe that's what needs to be put together here. It's like literally some out of the box, like Microsoft Office type of setup here for how do I apply all these like core tenets of building, a company, a product, whatever that keeps in mind all these very core,
Yeah,
concerns or checkpoints
yeah,
for the average consumer, right? Who may not know that these things need to be considered. So it's like, pull from this, digital box that has
Yeah.
this program already set,
yeah,
and that just gets automatically injected into your agent.
yeah, yeah,
It's understanding, it's context awareness of like how we should not just build but like scale
mm-hmm.
and maintain these very critical points, right? Like that's very valuable, and I think that's something we can offer over time through our own personal experience, and like everything will be archived here.
Yep.
So you can go back and see. It's like, oh shit, that's when they figured out. Maybe it's like when we launched the platform, we do discover a vulnerability bug. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, we're gonna have to handle this in real time.
Yep.
We can't go out there and get like some security auditor.
No,
We're gonna spin up
yeah, Claude code. It's just
our way out of this pickle, dude.
yeah.
And then once it's done, it's like, all right, well, that's been cemented into this process. or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, so let us know if you guys want to know more about how we're setting up our agentic kind of enterprise, and all the details that go along with like setting it up and then actually leveraging it to the point where it's producing 10 times the content in a quality way, right? You don't want to produce the slop, which we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
So yeah, give us your thoughts in the comment section below, and specifically, what do you want to know about this AI space that you want to implement that you haven't really gotten around to implementing it, and where you kind of need the help? Because I think that's going to be the most important part, because you have to start, right? If you don't do this now, you're going to be forced to do it later while everyone's already done doing it,
Yeah.
right? So it's going to happen. This is not one of those things where you can just like forget about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it for us. So again, let us know in the comment section below, like what your thoughts are on this whole AI thing. And yeah, appreciate you guys for watching, and we will catch you in the next podcast.
Peace.